Brilliant. Okay, so we've got a bit of news that's happening at the moment, and actually, for once, we've got some news that's quite timely, because the news today, or the news we're about to talk about, got released this morning. So QuickBooks have gone through quite a bit of a schedule at the moment, and what they're doing is they're bringing in their product releases on a quarterly basis. So I don't know if you remember from the very first episode we did, but we talked about the September release, or the spring release, should I say. And the idea of the spring release was it's giving us a load of information about what to expect coming up. Now, from today, they've released their summer product release schedule. So we're going to have a little bit of a look and see if there's anything in there that takes our interest. The first part of it in their summer release is their cash flow section. So within here, we're talking about how they've got that 90-day cash flow forecast, which we already seen. We've already had a play around. In fact, that was from the first episode. But one thing that is interesting is they have some new bank connections coming their way. So they're looking at TransferWise and Metal. And also, I know from speaking to QuickBooks and speaking to some of the advisors that there is actually going to be some better connections to existing accounts as well. So that could only be a good thing, couldn't it?
Definitely, Aaron. I mean, but have they... is the cash flow forecast itself going to be improved a little bit? That's my burning question. Or is it still the basic sort of review? I like a good old-fashioned table forecast myself.
Shots fired there from Ash. Yeah, I mean, they've got to be improvements, haven't they? It definitely is something that was sent out as it is, and we're happy that there's the solutions actually there, but there's definitely got to be some other ones on the way. So, you know, that the fact that they've put it into the summer product release, to me, gives me indication there's got to be other bits they're working on. Otherwise, they would have just not put it in at all, and then we would have kind of just been left with how it was. So I'm confident there's going to be some improvements, and hopefully based on some of the feedback we've already given them.
Yeah, cool.
Brilliant. The next one is payments. So the exciting bit here for me is, yes, we've got they're reiterating the fact they've got the special rates for payment. So just so if you're not aware of this, if you send the Pay Now button on QuickBooks, it goes via PayPal. And originally, when it was first announced, it was just using PayPal's original fees. What happened between QuickBooks and PayPal is they've come to an agreement, and now we have some preferential fees that can get sent if you use the Pay Now button in QuickBooks. That's great, and that's something I know a lot of clients are starting to utilize there. A lot of people I speak to find that a really useful feature, but the interesting bit is the iZettle integration. Now, when iZettle was acquired by PayPal, I want to say about a year ago now, the first thing that I definitely brought up at that point, or was excited about at that point, was this idea that we can then start thinking about the fact that there's going to be that iZettle integration, or at least it was a potential for it. And I think this is going to be huge, because there's so many clients out there that have iZettle. And for anyone who doesn't know quite what iZettle's for, it's for an EPOS solution. So think about if you're going to go and have a till system, this can be a really simple way of you being able to accept contactless or card payments just by using this iZettle solution. And this is what it's all about. The fact that when you can then buy or sell, when you sell something through this EPOS system, the idea that it can integrate and somehow get yourself directly into QuickBooks, we've not seen how that's going to work yet, but the way that could be a way of doing it is quite exciting. What do you think to that one?
That sounds very, I'm very interested in that. Now, with the iZettle, will you need other equipment or just the QuickBooks, software or the mobile phone app? Will we need to have any card readers or anything like that, or tills to link in, or is it, how do you think that's going to work?
Yeah, you'll definitely need a mobile phone as a bare minimum. So the mobile phone, and then they also give you a actual card reader. Now, part of this agreement between QuickBooks and PayPal and QuickBooks iZettle is they're going to give you preferential price on the card reader. So from memory, I think it was, it says somewhere around here. Yeah, so it should be £59 for the card reader, but you're going to have the opportunity to get it from £19 if you go through QuickBooks themselves. So that gives an indication that there's still going to be these preferential rates, these preferential ways of being able to have that integration. And more than anything, once you've got that card reader, you can use your phone if you're out and about, say, you're out actually on the road or whatever it's going to be. Most people, though, tend to use an iPad and they have that as their point of sale and go from there. And it just gives kind of a really nice way for the smallest of small clients to have a really sophisticated EPOS system. So we've installed it in quite a few small cafes, things like that. But especially during COVID, the power that they can get from that of going, you know what, actually, we're selling quite a lot of this item, or we're selling quite a lot of that item, and you get that opportunity to have those conversations, and that's been really powerful. So the fact that they can give you that, I think, is going to be quite a big thing going forward.
Yeah, that sounds pretty good. I mean, even 40 quid on the saving of the device is not bad. I'd just be interested to know what those actual transaction fees are going to be. So that's going to be the thing that people, that's what I'll be drilling down into finding out, because one thing is finding out, that's great, I've saved £40 on a card reader, but all of a sudden when the transaction comes through, if you're sort of £5 out of pocket, less than what you'd expect it to be, then that's what we just need to find out to begin with. I mean, Rowan, do you have much? Have you sort of dabbled much with the iZettle?
Well, when I was in practice, this was an area that QuickBooks were a bit behind on, to be honest, and they're now obviously catching up with these integrations. I've not specifically used the iZettle one because at the time wasn't available, but GoodTill was one that I'd looked at before for POS and QuickBooks Online, and their integration is really good. I think the iZettle integration, looking at it a while ago, maybe it's a one invoice a day type of job rather than every transaction, which is actually is probably better that way for the type of businesses that we're looking at that would probably use the iZettle integration.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be an interesting one. And I think when it comes to, we'll go through the other summer ones, but I think that's going to be one of the exciting ones in terms of, like you said, just kind of giving it for extra bits for clients. So the next one is automation. So really they're just pushing more the capturing of bills and receipts. So if you remember, we kind of showed this, I want to say last week or maybe last QuickBooks Labs or maybe the time before, but we showed how now it's not just the receipt capture, so expense capture that you could do. You now have the opportunity to put bills in there. Again, the fact that they're kind of highlighting it for the summer product release, there's one or two things there. Either the bill kind of adaptation was never meant for the spring release, or this could mean the fact that they have some extra bits that they're expecting to see on there. And that's kind of, for me, the bit, because again, there's definitely things out there that could do with a bit of kind of improvements. There are some things on there that doesn't quite work as intended. So the fact that it's still in their product lineup in terms of their summer release could be a good thing.
Yeah, I think maybe one of the things in there is that at the moment, if you just scan the receipt and it's been copied into a bill, when you come to review it from within the receipt capture area, you can't split that at the moment to different categories. It'd be a case of actually having to process the bill and then going into the bill afterwards and editing it. Whereas I think I've seen on a Canadian Facebook forum that someone had asked a similar question actually, and someone hinted that it may, that could be a future release. So if that does come through, it would be, very much beneficial. And also, there's no credit note feature in there either, so it'd be handy to be able to upload a credit note.
Yeah,
I think when I had a look at that, actually, there's a few things that they need to do in terms of improving the integration with the existing QuickBooks system. The products and services, I think, wasn't one that was available potentially.
Yes.
Yeah. So there are definitely things that they need to do there. The actual system, when I tried it, looked like it worked very well, though.
Yeah, definitely. And I think the one thing they've got to figure out, and I'm sure they're looking at it, is discoverability as well, because we can get stuff sent in from clients. We've got no idea it's there unless you physically go into the part of the app and have a look at it there. So fingers crossed that's something that's going to come through with and the fact it's on the summer product release is good. Now, this one was a surprise to me. I don't know if you knew about this or not, Ash, but they're looking to bring in the employee portal to the standard payroll as well, which is great news. Really, really excited about that. But that one was a bit of a shock to me because I thought that was the advantage of having the advanced payroll. But we'll discuss that in a moment. Then I chuckled to myself when I saw this. So the automatic tax code updates for payroll. I've recently moved from one payroll provider to QuickBooks, and I must admit I completely forgot this wasn't even a feature already there. So I have to actually go and make sure I've done my payrolls correctly because I was assuming they were being updated as they went along. New pension automation that they've been talking about for a while, and track employees with T-sheets. They're definitely going to be pushing T-sheets a lot at the moment. We're going to see a lot more kind of information about T-sheets come in. And then transfer to standard payroll at any time. I'm not sure how that's a new feature, but yeah, the opportunity is there. So, Ash, what do you think about the, especially that portal question? I mean, were you expecting that?
I wasn't expecting it, to be honest, but it's very handy that it's there. I mean, I still think the advanced payroll has got a lot of advantages over standard. I mean, from an employee point of view, it's going to be extremely handy that the employee can basically update probably their name and address, through the portal and check their pay slips, check their P60s. So there are certain things that we'd have in the advanced payroll, like actually putting an expense claim through. That's not going to be a feature that's in standard because you don't have expenses a different portal. Possibly the detailed recording of hours where you can actually log in through advanced payroll and just press start to start recording your time and stop to finish recording your time. So that's probably something that you'd still need in the advanced area.
Yeah, I know what you're saying about there's still quite a few advantages of the advanced payroll, but for me, the reason I went over was the portal and HR. Yeah. Both of them are now coming to standard, but yeah, there is definitely still enough there to kind of meat on the bone, if you like. But I suppose it's really the advanced payroll is really going to be pushing for those kind of higher up in terms of the payroll needs, isn't it, going forward? Yeah,
I think just sort of sticking with payroll for just a minute. The only reason why, the main reason why I would go into advanced over standard is just the flexibility on mapping your chart of account codes, which you don't get on standard, because you can really be quite granular on how you want those coded over.
And you get departments and everything, I suppose, as well.
If you want class tracking, yeah.
Definitely. And the automatic tax codes updates fail. I couldn't believe that. Well, it's my fault for not properly checking the software, but I completely forgot that that's sort of thing that's not standard on every payroll now. So it's just good that that's coming in.
If you're already using the advanced, it's not a feature that you actually have to think about switching on because it sort of just happens.
Oh, is it in advanced payroll?
Yeah, so it's already in advanced payroll. It's been in there since day one. And as soon as you connect an EPS report, it should start doing it in the background for you automatically. It's not something you need to sort of worry about finding a switch for. It just happens like magic.
Standard payroll. There we are. User error. Brilliant. Okay, so that makes more sense. Construction tax. We knew again this was on its way. I was under the impression it was supposed to be part of the spring product release, but for various reasons it's probably been pushed back. So basically, we're just excited really for this one to come in. The idea that basically you can then start filing your CIS directly through QuickBooks. So it's a no-brainer really for that product, is it?
Yeah, it seems like I've been waiting forever for this to happen, but it can't happen soon enough really. And I think there might be some additional features in there, just the way that the tax reconciles, similar to VAT. I think that's a feature that's sort of coming in as well. So if that's there, so then it will round it off nicely. So you shouldn't get any sort of unreconciled CIS, entries if it's sort of closing a period off once it's filed, that sort of thing. I believe, anyway, is on the way.
Brilliant. And then finally, accountants, we're going to get those month-end reviews that I spoke about last QuickBooks Labs, and made-to-measure reporting, which we've kind of seen soft launch, if you like. There's some elements to the reporting that's been changed, but they are looking to put some more improvements in there as well.
So what's a bit more on the monthly review? Can you sort of give us a bit more on that?
Yeah, they haven't given the splash page on it yet, but the idea here, and I've seen it in the American QuickBooks, it might have been QuickBooks Connect or one of the ones where they were kind of going through it there. So effectively, it's going to be the idea of having the ability to have that month-end review, a lot like Smart Scan. So it's going to bring that Smart Scan facility of actually going through and reviewing and telling you what's going to go, and that's going to come into the main overview section. So the idea then is you've got a client and you've gone through the month and you get to go through and check that everything's okay. So it's going to kind of expand on overview and give you more. One interesting thing they were talking about though was almost like gamification of QuickBooks or your QuickBooks file to a point. So the idea there is that you're going to get a score out of 10 or 50, whatever the figure is, to say basically how well or how your data's looking or how well you're utilizing the data. So if you've got loads of rules, if you've got those automations, you've got those sort of things, it's going to be there. So, it's going to be a positive definitely coming forward in terms of giving us some extra bits.
I think on that, if I just come in on that, I think one of the things that Xero have done really well is Xavier. Well, it's not Xero, it's just the connection between Xavier and Xero. And if QuickBooks can try and replicate something like that, which it sounds like that is sort of what it is, then that will be really good for people, because otherwise I think you're really only options for analysis at the minute are Silverfin and potentially if when Xavier do their QuickBooks connection, they'll have that as well. But that sounds really interesting. I've not seen that.
Yeah, that's a really good point, Ron, because we sort of touched upon Xavier in the last episode that we had, and we sort of looked on the release when Xero had just purchased it, and I've already said the same thing. There was a note in there, Xavier were working on the QuickBooks connection, but will people really need it if these sort of monthly review features are coming in, where it's sort of pointing out, have you put things in the right place and have you made the most use of that particular feature? So it's quite an interesting topic.
Is this for a specific client, or are you looking across your firm here, analysis in terms of the review?
Yeah, it seems to be that it's going directly into the overview section. So in each individual client, you'll have the option to go into overview, monthly, streamline reviews from there. So yeah, it seems like that's where it's going to be. But that doesn't stop it then having the opportunity to go QBOA, because I can't remember the last time QBOA had an update. So it seems a bit neglected at the moment. So you would have thought at some point they're going to push something there as well.
Yeah, I suppose it's one of those, we were chatting about this the other day, what we, Aaron, was how much investment goes into updating QBOA. It depends on, I suppose, how much accountants are actually using it, because if loads of firms are using different apps like Accountancy Manager and this, that, and the other to do their day-to-day sort of management of their clients, if the accountancy firm is not using it and neglecting it, not using work, and I'm guessing that Intuit must be able to monitor how much time an accountant is spending in that particular area of the product, and I'd be surprised if they didn't have those tools. Then I suppose it just depends on, will they bother putting much more stuff in there? I suppose that's the main thing, isn't it?
In the US, I think I saw that the carbon integration is now kind of what is the practice solution for work for the American region. And I think that they probably realised that their practice management solution isn't good enough, and they don't want to spend the time and investment making it better.
Yeah, I agree, Rowan. And the thing is, as someone that's sort of quite new to developing apps myself, is that you can never please everybody. So Intuit could spend ages trying to, they'd listen to 100 people, thinking, actually, yeah, we'll design it in such and such a way, and it does this and does something else. And then another 100 people come along and want something completely different. So those 100 people want something that's in Accountancy Manager. Those other 100 people want the features that are in Tax Calc. So they're just as easy for you. So you go and use that, and you go and use that. We'll just leave the simple stuff as it is.
Yeah.
And I think we've seen that as well, haven't we? Because they have gone and they've bought T-sheets, for example. They've had that kind of acquisition stage, so they're not afraid to kind of go do that. So yeah, they'll definitely. Well, I suppose it's watch this space really on that one, isn't it? In terms of everything else. And then the only other bit of news to bring in was just keep an eye on your QuickBooks files, because there's going to be some changes regarding the terminology going forward. So as accountants, we get a choice between, do we want to see a client view and a accountant's view? But from the client's view, they're going to have a more simplified way of talking about things. So, for example, the banking screen is going to have different terminology and things like that. So, again, I suppose it's pushing the fact that they're trying to make sure that from the end user point of view, it's going to be utilized and shown the best way. But for accountants, we're going to still have that familiarity if we need it. So, yeah, it can only be a good thing.
Yeah, I did notice that the other day, and one of the other things that something like the where it says employees, that's going to be renamed to payroll, which makes sense. I did sort of wonder though about the different view, accounting view or business, and I sort of thought, well, if I'm logged in as an accountant, why would I need any other view than the accountant view? I'm not quite sure on that one, but maybe I might be surprised when it happens.
I can imagine that's for training purposes, isn't it? So if you've got a client ringing up and asking you, how do I do X, Y, Z? The ability for you to see what they can see is going to be useful, isn't it? Because if you're telling them to press employees and theirs is payroll, that's probably why that feature's there. But yeah, it's one of those.
Good point. So if you are doing some training, screen sharing, there's no confusion of what your screen is and what their screen is. That does make sense.
Yeah, cool.
That sounds like a really, really useful thing that they're doing there with the terminology. I remember so many times of training a client, and you tell them one way and it doesn't make sense on the screen, and they forget because you're trying to ask them, this is what you do when you get a refund from a supplier. And of course, on the banking screen, there's no button that says refund. So it goes in as another sale. The amount of times that happened. And it's just a simple fix with the wording.
Yeah, completely right. And they've got a big initiative for that now, a big push for it. So
Yeah. I told him I can be a fighter if you want. I'll be there to catch you if you fall. I can make it brighter when it starts. I told him I would do it all for you, and I know you do it for me too. I can be a fighter if you want. I can be a fighter. I can be a fighter if you want. I can be a fighter if you want. All the way that I feel, yeah, I know that it's real, 'cause I can get him out of my head. I don't care what we do, everything's feeling new. Even if we stay in bed, my heart is saying yeah. You know I want him nah. My heart is saying yeah.